I am Lonita Cook, and this is The Artistry, the show dedicated to art activists. With us today is Heartland Emmy Award-winning director Patrick Ray. He's directed over 30 short films and has 2 features under his belt. He's a major player in the Kansas City market and is helping to define KC cinema. A master of the horror humor genre blend and co-founder of film production company Sino Reality Pictures, Patrick Ray has made a name for himself that reaches from KC to LA to international markets with such films as Get Off My Porch, Time's Up, Eve, and his film Nail Biter, which is currently burning up the film festival circuit and will be released soon from Lionsgate Home Entertainment. In September, he will also release new short film Wrong Number. In addition to filmmaking and art activism, he is a family man, husband, and first-time expectant father. Please stay tuned for our guest, Patrick Ray. Today we'll be talking with Patrick Ray about making films and making them well. And also, Patrick, you have a very distinguished style, very recognizable style, and that's one thing about you that I really love, and then also your loyalty to the industry. But before we get into that, let's talk about your background a little bit, okay?
Okay.
You're from Nebraska?
I am from Schuyler, Nebraska originally, which is
okay.
Schuyler, Nebraska, which is about an hour and a half north of Lincoln, so northwest of Lincoln.
And you grew up there your entire life, and
I stayed there. I was there till I ended up going to community college in a neighboring town, and then when I was 20, I ended up moving to Kansas for college at KU. So
college at KU.
Yeah, University of Kansas.
And did you completely fall in love with KU? Is that why you stayed in Kansas City?
You know, I loved Lawrence. I actually lived in Lawrence for 10 years, and I just loved the atmosphere, and I felt like it was a really artsy town. And then I found myself driving to Kansas City every other day, kind of for work or for meetings and stuff like that. So now I'm living in Shawnee, which I think is a good halfway point between Lawrence and downtown Kansas City. So. And
what in your background kind of prepared you for the life that you live? Because right now you are a filmmaker. That's what you do.
Yeah, that's what I do. You know, it was interesting when I was in high school. Let me go further back. When I was 5 years old, I got really into movies, and it's funny because I was telling you earlier that in photo books my parents kept, there's pictures of me playing different characters and making them act out different scenes from different movies, and I was a really big Star Wars nut. And but then when I got into high school is when I really started making stuff. We had a channel in our high school that could be broadcast to everybody in town who had cable.
Wow.
So you know, they were taping basketball games, football games, and all that. And in my spare time, I was making little movies and airing them on the channel on loop. So Excellent. It was I could turn on the TV and just see my film playing on loop all the time.
What were you making films on back then? I mean, was this equipment that you got from the school?
Super VHS, yeah, right. And it was not the stuff now, and I was editing between 2 VHS decks, and it was just very old school. And that's how I kind of got the bug, I guess, to make films, because it was just kind of fun, because at the time I was lifeguarding and I would hear kids talking about the films that they were seeing on the channel while and not knowing that I had anything to do with them, and I was like, wow, I really like this. And so and I was making the cheesiest stuff possible. I've taken all those tapes and I've locked them in a safe so nobody ever finds them. But so then when I came to KU, I actually, it was interesting, because then I started, doing everything with the computer and, editing on Premiere and Final Cut.
And you graduated in 2002.
2002.
Had the technology...
It was when I was going to KU. We were still shooting on film. So basically, I was still cutting my teeth on 16 millimeter, and it was around the time where things started to go digital. Mini DV was starting to become popular, and it was affordable. And so it was right around that time, and I think that was around the time that George Lucas started shooting his movies on video.
Do you think having that traditional education, the old school education,
Yeah.
has that benefited you, even
Yes,
though?
absolutely. Because I think that shooting on 16 millimeter, the thing is it's very expensive and it's very time consuming, and it forces you to really be meticulous in the planning, because you may run out of film, so you have to be very careful. You can't do 50 takes. And I've been on films where it was like, oh, okay, I had just enough film to get my last shot.
Right.
And then you got to send the film off and then, wait for it to come back and hope that it's in focus. So it's one of those things where, like, with today's technology, there's that immediate gratification.
Sure.
Where you can, like, plug
And
the camera in.
and those are the sorts of things that make it less expensive, because you don't have to send it off.
You don't have to send it off and have it
Right.
processed, and and then you're
Or cut my hand. Or,
and you know immediately if you didn't get what you needed, so that in many ways that's what's been great about, especially with working on the films recently, where it's like you're on set and you're like, I don't know if that worked. Let's look at it right now.
Right.
But
Nice.
shooting on 16 millimeter, it was like, okay, let's wait 2 months or 2 weeks or whatever.
Right.
So,
Okay, and so 2002, you graduate from
That's right.
KU, and you stay in contact with the people that you networked with. that
Right,
you built
right.
relationships. Are they your film crew?
yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people there's an argument about film school. A lot of people think you don't have to go to film school to make films. And that's true. You can just make films and learn from watching movies. But at the same time, for me, it was really beneficial to go to film school, because all the people that I work with now are the people I met in film school, that we've kept in contact with each other. And a couple of my buddies started a production company in Lawrence that's thriving, and
Nice.
they're currently shooting Jayhawkers right now, and so it's like those are the people that ended up working on Nailbiter, and those are the people that I continue to work with.
And when you say thriving, can you tell me what you mean by that?
Well, they're doing national stuff. I mean, they're reaching out to a whole bunch of different, they're shooting stuff all over the country, and so I think that by being in Kansas City, it's a nice central location. You can reach out, you can go. I'm 25 minutes from the airport. I can hop on a plane and go anywhere I want.
Right.
And
It's the heartland.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
So and also shooting here is really beneficial because it's cheaper. I've had a lot of success with getting locations, because people out here are really excited about making movies because it's kind of a new thing.
Right.
And they're not jaded by it. So there's a lot of people who are just willing to help. And I think that's why a lot of us stuck around, I think.
Let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
When you talk about grad school and the relationships, can you also talk about the foundation that was laid? Because you are really successful at what you do. You're successful in terms of creativity, and you're successful in terms of maneuvering throughout the industry, right? But talk about the foundation, because there are people who are like, oh, I can just grab a camera and I can just have an idea,
Right.
and then I can go for it. But do you think, it takes more than that, right?
It's making a movie right is extremely difficult, and it requires a lot of patience, and it also requires a really good sense of humor, because so many things go wrong. And if you don't find something funny about it all the time, you're going to be very, very sad. So, it really, you have to understand what it takes to tell a good story. And I think that especially with short films, you got to tell a beginning, middle, and end in a short period of time. And that's why I even think 30-second commercials especially are a great way to cut your teeth, and because some of them have a beginning, middle, and end. So I always tell people, everybody's like, well, I want to just make The Godfather right now.
Right.
And I'm like, look, you got to make some short films and start developing an understanding of the process of telling a good story, working with actors, and it just requires, my early stuff is rough, and then you just get, but you got to keep doing it until you get better. And eventually you start to develop an understanding of it. And, it's funny because on every movie there's always something that I didn't see coming,
Right.
But as
And
long
when you
as
say something that you didn't see coming, you mean like kind of a disaster on set that you have to...
Sure, if it's like an actor just suddenly throwing up on the set, and you're like, what? I didn't expect that to happen, or like a light burning out, and then realizing you don't have another bulb, and so you have to spend 2 hours to find a bulb for that light, that kind of thing. Things that because what I usually do is after the script is written, I storyboard shot for shot, hand draw all the shots.
Right.
Some people can use computer programs to do that, where they design all the shots that way. And then with my cameraman, we go to the locations, and he figures out where all the lights are going to go based off the storyboards. And there's a lot of time that goes into just the pre-production.
So there is a lot of preparation.
Right.
And
it's like it's like basically event planning, or it's like you're basically, so that when you get to the actual shooting, it is smooth,
Right.
And then if there is a curveball thrown at you, it doesn't derail the entire day.
Okay, well, you know this because you have worked on, and like I said, when I was introducing you, over 30 short films, and you have 2 feature films.
Right.
Let's go ahead and talk about those films.
Okay.
Which one is your favorite?
I would say Get Off My Porch is my favorite short film,
Yeah.
only because it just seems that it gets a great reaction out of people all the time, and it manages not to be too dark and not too funny. It just fits right in that little niche, and everybody can kind of relate to the whole Girl Scout being coming to your house and asking for you to buy cookies. So
Get Off My Porch is a short film about
a guy being harassed by evil Girl Scouts, and it's played at like 50 film festivals, and it's currently on FearNet, and so it's going to be broadcast on their channel.
What's FearNet?
FearNet's a horror channel now that you can get through Time Warner and I think Comcast, and so it's been making the way through. So. And so, yeah, it's funny because it just seems like everybody always is talking about it afterwards. People remember it. So,
but I'd have to say, when I talk about having a recognizable style, I think that your films are very memorable because there is the horror, the humor, but you're also really wonderful at twists.
Right.
Is it... how did you know how to do that?
Well, it's funny because, again, I started doing some of these weird short films when I was in college, and I did one where there was this guy who basically, his wall is like, every time he touches his wall, it laughs, and like he's tickling his wall, and it was weird because then I showed it to the students, and they're like, "This is so outlandish." And so then I started thinking, well, maybe this is the way I should go with it. So I started making a lot more short films, and there's Tales from the Crypt and Twilight Zone and all those shows. You watch them, and there's always some type of curveball at the end of the film. So I kind of wanted to go that direction with shorts, and I think that it makes the shorts more memorable when there's like a little bit of a surprise or something. So
exactly, because I know, like in all stories, there does have to be kind of a turn of events, right? I mean, that's what makes a story good, wouldn't you say? But you, it's not just it's the, oh my goodness, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah. It seems like in every short film we do, the main character gets shafted by the end of the movie in some fashion. Like something bad happens to that character at the very end. So,
well, we're going to go ahead and take our first break.
Cool.
And when we come back, we'll keep talking about your films.
Okay.
I want to talk about Nailbiter, which is the one that's kind of really blazing that film circuit. Okay. We'll be right back.
Back off, old man!
Thanks for staying with us. We are still talking with Patrick Ray, filmmaker and director, and we're talking about your films, Patrick. And we've discussed Get Off My Porch, which is about
evil Girl Scouts.
And I want to bring up Mrs. Brummett's Garden.
Okay.
There's a little bit of a different feel there because the other ones are kind of dark, taken at night.
Right.
But this one was very light, shot in the daytime in a beautiful garden.
Right.
And there are fairies.
Right. It's kind of a fairy tale movie where basically this elderly woman who claims she's talking to fairies in her garden, and her husband doesn't believe her, and he's planning on putting her in a home, and it's a lot more dramatic than maybe some of our other films, and so I think that, and it's also a little longer. It's about 25 minutes long, and you know, we spent a lot of time making that garden look really nice because we shot it in, I think, September, October. It was a weird time, and so we had to go to like a floral place and just start importing flowers into the garden to make it look like it actually was blooming.
Right, and it was beautiful.
And we shot the majority of it in Lawrence, Kansas, and then we shot a section of it here in I think, Olathe. So,
Olathe.
Yeah.
Nice. And another film, Time's Up, Eve. I want to talk specifically about this movie. Okay, and I want to make sure I have the premise correct. It's about people who are being hunted by
these beings from another world, and it's set in the 40s, so it's like this alternate 40s world. So it's black and white. We shot a lot of it in the West Bottoms.
and it's very noir.
It's very noir. It's supposed to be like the main character is supposed to be kind of like the blonde bombshell, like femme fatale that you would see in a 40s movie. And so I wanted to combine the 40s, you know, Maltese Falcon look with, you know, some science fiction,
and
see if it worked, blended kind of.
And in your films, because they are horror leaning, if not horror, you use a lot of special effects.
Right.
There's one in Time's Up, Eve that I specifically was like, oh my gosh, how did he do that? They take these beings from another world. They come and they remove the soul.
Right, out of the back of your neck.
Out of the back of your neck. How did you do that?
Well, the first thing we did was we did a huge layer of like latex on the back of the neck with like a hole to like, and the actual soul was a pearl. We bought like a cheap pearl necklace and then we motion tracked it in post-production, and in After Effects we added the glow to make it look like it was glowing blue, and it's the only thing that's in color in the entire movie. The rest of it's all black and white. So it was time consuming because every time we did the makeup on the actor, we would look at it on camera. I'm like, no, I don't like it. Send them, and so we just kept going back and back and back until we finally got the look just right. And of course, we cut it in a way that like it doesn't linger too long on the shot because it's, you know, the makeup wasn't perfect, but you know, it was pretty good. So
is something like that extremely expensive?
Not really. It's just time consuming. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, I was on a schedule to get the movie shot in 3 days, and you know, you just got to keep. We were shooting nights. You know, we started shooting at 7 p.m. and we would shoot till sunrise. So people were kind of, you know.
How long, if you have a day schedule that's that long, how many days does it take to complete?
Well, that one I think took 4, if I remember. And it's funny because by the 4th day you're used to the schedule and then you're done. So it's like, all right, I think I can, and then you have to shift your schedule back to normal people hours. So So because by the 2nd day when the sun's coming up and you're just kind of not feeling it, but then the 3rd day you're like, I'm starting to feel like my body's getting used to this, and then by the 4th day you're finished, and okay, now you got to go back to getting up at 7 a.m. So. And
let's talk about kind of a shift away from what you usually do in terms of story.
Okay.
Let's talk about Rhino, which is more of a crime drama.
Crime drama, yeah.
Yeah. What made you decide to switch it up a little bit?
The screenwriters came to me with the idea, and John Nickham and Jai Nitz wrote the script, and it was it's interesting because it's a 45-minute piece, and so it's kind of in a weird time slot where it's not a feature, it's not really a short.
Right.
So it's almost like a pilot for a television series. And so, yeah, we shot it for 9 days mostly in Lawrence again.
Right.
And because it needed to be set in a college town. And it deals with marijuana dealers.
Yes, it does.
It is completely different from all the rest of the stuff. And I think that's why, because I was doing Nailbiter and I was doing Rhino almost simultaneously, back to back.
Wow.
And we were supposed to shoot Rhino in 2010, and then we didn't end up shooting it until 2011. And we were still doing Nailbiter stuff, so it was like, all right, I'm doing a horror movie over here. I want to do something different. Mainly so that I could keep them separate in my mind, because there was so much going on, and it was like I didn't want to have.
So doing them at the same time.
I didn't want to forget. Okay, what movie am I working on? So it was very clear which movie I was working on at the time. So that was cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of the performances in that movie. So.
I saw Rhino. It's a very good movie, and you have some really great talent in the film. And visually, I mean, that's one thing that you do. You also know how to frame a scene.
Right. Really well, you know, Hahnemann and I have been working together now since 2006, I think. And you know, the first project we worked on, I storyboarded for him, and he wasn't used to seeing storyboards, so he was really excited about it. And so now he and I, you know, basically have this silent communication. Whenever I bring in the storyboards, it's like he and I are kind of reading each other's minds, and he can kind of come up with a lighting diagram, and between the two of us, we, you know, and it's funny because when he'll do a shot, he'll go look at me, he goes, "You want it tighter, don't you?" I'm like, "Yes." So then he'll do that, you know. So
that's awesome, because to have somebody who understands you and can just move in there and act immediately. So Nail Biter.
Right.
You this is your first feature film.
Second.
It's
your second feature film.
What was the first?
First one was called Empty Acre, and I made it right out of college, and it was like me sleeping on a couch working on this movie for 2 years, not really eating anything but ramen noodles, and made it for like $0. So this was like my first, Nail Biter was my first feature where I had somewhat of a budget to work with, and
where do you get your budget?
Well, it's different every time. You know, everybody asks me, so how do you raise money? And I'm like, a lot of it is just networking, communicating with people, showing people the films, having them trust me that we'll make a good movie. And so every time we do a film, it almost seems like there's a different investor.
So when you get someone to trust you, it's not just trusting that your imagination's good, your storytelling's good, but it's also trusting you that you can bring a film in on budget and on time.
Right, exactly. Though it's funny because like with Nail Biter, the main producer was also the main investor, so he and I, we could take our time with anything. We took our sweet time with it. And he and I were working on our own schedule. We were both like, let's not rush this movie. You know, let's not show it to people until we're absolutely 100% happy with it. And
but now it's doing really well.
It's been playing film festivals, and we've got like more in front of us than behind us. I think we're up to about 30 film festivals at this point.
Goodness.
And
you're traveling all over the country, international travels with this in Canada.
I haven't gone out of the country yet. The movie has. I haven't. Oh. The movie's playing in other countries, but I haven't gone to other countries. But I have been going to a lot of the ones in the States, and I just went to one in Louisville, and I've gone to a couple in Chicago recently, and my producer's going to one in Atlanta over Labor Day. It's playing in 4 film festivals on Labor Day.
Nice.
So, and I'm not going to any of them, which is, I'm going to visit family that weekend. So it's like I can't afford to keep going to all of these film festivals.
Of course not. But you know.
But the movie's coming out on DVD. We got a distribution deal
with Lionsgate.
Through Lionsgate Home Entertainment. So.
How do you procure something like that? I mean, as a filmmaker in the Midwest.
Again, it's one of those things where you just have to talk to people. And you know, with Aaron, who produced Nail Biter, he produced a movie called Last Breath, and then he secured a sales agent for that movie, and so then we had the same sales agent for Nail Biter. So we had a sales agent ready to go on Nail Biter before we even wrapped on the movie.
Sure.
And so they were out actively trying to pursue and find distributors for the movie before we even showed them a cut of the film.
And when talking to agents, sales agents, distributors, producers, how much does having that degree help them trust you?
The film degree?
Yes.
They don't probably even know I have a film degree, to be honest. It's funny, because they've never asked me, and it's funny, you know, unless you read my bio. But again, for me, the film degree created a foundation for me in terms of understanding. I think that studying film is very important because you got to understand what came before you.
Right.
You know, what movies are considered masterpieces, and you know what worked and what didn't work, but you can, you know, again, you can put yourself through your own film school if you want to.
If you want
but
to.
Again, I met I networked with a lot of people.
And you
through film school.
Conditioned yourself. You know who to trust. You know how you like to work.
Right.
Excellent.
Right.
And can we talk, kind of distinguish between being a director and being a filmmaker? What's the difference between the two?
Well, filmmaker, I almost say it encompasses everything. Like, I think that anybody who's working on a movie is a filmmaker. You know, everybody wants to be a storyteller, and I think that by working on a movie, you're all part of this thing that's building a story, and so everybody's the filmmaker. Director is basically, I would say, the director is creating the structure of how the movie is going to be paced, how the performances are going to be, and also managing all the personalities. I mean, on set, from the actors to the crew, to just keeping the tone fun, I think. I think it's
Right.
important to keep the tone fun on set because, you know, if you're on set and immediately everybody's miserable, it seeps into the final product. You can tell when people weren't having a good time. So,
Do you think that you have to have like a background in theater or to be an effective filmmaker?
you know, I took theater directing classes in college. I actually directed several plays just so I could get better with just working with actors,
Right.
you know? And so yeah, I think so. I think you should try to put all your hands in all different kinds of pies, I guess, you know?
Right on.
So-
Well, we're going to be coming to a close here in a minute.
Okay.
But I do want to ask you, what do you give back to burgeoning filmmakers? I mean, do you do anything to help shepherd them along?
Yeah, you know, especially if I see, I had a guy recently send me a film that he made, and it just blew me away. And I'm like, all right, here's you know, he's like, what do I do? And I just started sending him lists of film festivals that he needed to get in contact with.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, like if I see something that's really great, and I'm like, I try to
And
help.
you
it.
also do like a lot of workshops and talks at film festivals, like
The KC Urban Film Fest, I'm doing a block of
Right.
short films. I'm bringing different short films that I've seen over the last year that I really liked from different filmmakers in the area, and I'm going to be presenting them at the KC Urban Film Fest. So, yeah, I'm trying to help
Sure.
get the word out on other movies being made here and stuff. So.
Excellent. So I thank you so much, Patrick, and I thank you. Beginning October 19th, the Midlife Players, which is an organization that offers performance opportunities to actors and singers age 35 and up, they will be presenting Into the Woods in concert at the Alcott Arts Center. For more information, visit their Facebook page. My name is Lonita Cook. This has been The Artistry. Stay art active and we'll see you next time.